remember that we're saying that oil is lower.
Yes.
Oil's at 110.
Well, that's right. We're still in triple digits.
So one, we're at 110.
Not where it was at the start of the year.
It was 60.
I know.
Okay, 60. So we're basically almost double where we were. And we're talking about, nobody thinks of 110 ever as a low oil price.
Well, that's fair.
That is a very high oil price.
Directionally speaking, though.
But here's what's happening. The market really wants to rally. They don't like bad news.
The stock market.
The stock market.
Yeah. Totally.
The stock market. The physical market and the stock market are divergent at the moment. We may get convergence at some point. We probably will be. We don't know if the convergence will be when the stock market realizes where the real physical market actually is, or that the war actually ends, we have an opening, and then the physical market will go to where the stock market is. But they are not in the same place. $110 of Brent oil is only available on a Bloomberg terminal.
I know where you're going.
You can't buy that barrel. That barrel of Brent oil is selling for 150, 145, some days 155, even 170.
Supply
on
demand,
Sunday.
right?
Because it's only paper.
Yeah.
It's people on Wall Street.
That's the real market.
The real market right now is that there is not enough oil. We're in a demand destruction in certain countries, but they're poor countries first. So stock market doesn't care. So we are in a place where every day that goes by now with fake headlines, and what happened today at the Pentagon is fake headlines. We're not really in a ceasefire because missiles are flying. That's usually the definition of a ceasefire, is missiles don't fly 2 days in a row. We don't have a ceasefire in Lebanon because we still have fighting in Lebanon, despite the fact that we say it's a ceasefire. And tankers are not moving, despite the fact that we have government officials say they are moving. They're not. So that means that there's no tankers on the water going to Asia, going to Europe. None. Zero. And so that is going to, that bite will deepen every day.
Okay, so I guess, I don't know, how do you then look at things longer term? Because I think what most folks are also thinking off of this war, that things are going to be changed forever in terms of people thinking about, we talked about this yesterday, about countries' access to strategic commodities, whether it's oil, whether it's, really ensuring that their supply chains are solid, that they can't be disrupted. And that means a lot of domestic production. That means probably higher costs around the world. It feels like it's a very different global economy going forward.
So I think that's...
Should we prepare for that?
I think we will prepare for that. And in fact, some of it is already happening.
Yeah.
So this is similar to two other events. One is the 1970s, which led us to build a strategic reserve, created the IEA, the International Energy Agency. Structures of the energy market were different moving forward after the 1970s. They were very different before, changed forever. COVID changed how we think about supply chains. We suddenly got shocked by the supply chains, which is why we started stockpiling. We started thinking about making sure that we didn't live on, one supplier, et cetera. And now what's going to happen is the Strait of Hormuz is under Iranian control basically for the foreseeable future. Regardless of, nobody in the market should look at what the deal says eventually and believe it on straits. Iran will control the straits. Everybody in Washington will believe it. Nobody in the Gulf. No one in the Gulf will believe. They know the Iranians are not going to control this. What does that mean? It means you got to change, Carol, what you said. You got to build out infrastructure that does two things. One, bypasses the Strait of Hormuz. It's possible to do.
Yeah.
It's not even that expensive. A few $1 billion. But a few $1 billion in what we're talking about doesn't cost very much. The redundancy is important. Second, build out more storage facilities in destination countries. So we already have some storage in places like Singapore, but build them out in Tokyo, in Delhi, and China already has, not just of oil, but of jet fuel. Airports should probably hold a little bit more jet fuel capacity.
Just ask Lufthansa. He's canceling flights for the summer.
Exactly. Not just them. I think everybody. If you're an American listening to this and you think you're going on vacation this summer, plan for a very, very expensive one.
Yeah.
Driving is going to be very expensive. And so will RVs. RVs will be even more expensive because diesel is through the roof. And jet fuel is
Can I ask you why this is happening right now? If it was President Biden and you were advising him, were you guys pushing to do something to this effect in Iran?
No.
They have been a threat for how many decades, right?
Look, we used to joke whenever people would come and say, "Oh my God, we're."
But we've had people come on and say, "Listen, this was long overdue. It was time to do something. We knew this was a country that hated America."
Yes. By the way, they're not alone. If we're going to war against every country that hates America, then there's a list that we may have to go to war for a few more months, a few more years. North Korea
Funny,
is doing
not funny, actually.
North Korea is doing a lot on nuclear. They hate America.
Yeah.
We're not going to war there. Iran is a place where first of all, we had a deal with Iran to not go to a nuclear weapon called the JCPOA in 2015.
Right.
President Trump got out of that in 2019. Probably should have stayed in, because the deal we're talking about now that we will get is going to be very similar to that. There'll be some cosmetic changes. It'll be very similar. We didn't have to do this war. I understood some of the rationale of the June war several months ago. They were cheating on the nuclear side. If they're not going to go back into a deal, a limited strike, and the Iranians didn't strike back, and the proxies didn't strike back. They didn't close the straits. It was limited in scope. It was limited in time. And so I understood that this war was a moment of opportunity. There were a lot of protests that were rising up, and President Trump said, help's on the way, and all of a sudden got painted into the corner, and then started coming up with reasons why we're in this war. Nobody really knows why we're in this war. No American really knows why we're in this war.
I don't even think,
But we hear the
but it doesn't
justifications
matter.
from the administration every day.
But they change. But they
You
change.
mentioned storage, though. I want to ask you about what's about to happen in Iran when it comes to their own oil storage, because there's nowhere to put the oil at this point. They're loading tankers almost. They're putting oil supposedly on trains to China. The president says the whole underground infrastructure is going to blow up, which I'm not sure is true. But if they have to start shutting wells, that's going to be a pretty major moment, and something that could happen in days or weeks. Do you?
Well, first of all, it was supposed to happen already several days ago.
So that's not.
So it didn't happen. Here's the thing.
Why not?
Because I've dealt with, there is real economies of oil where you look at the Baker Hughes manual of what do you do in this situation, and there's wartime and stress time. They're very different. I spent a lot of time in southern Iraq trying to help them refix and so on. And if you went down there, no manual told you to do it. They should have been shut in.
Wow.
There is a way. Iran is a very good engineering country. They have remarkable engineering talent. They've been in the oil business 100 years.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing. When we did I was in charge of the sanctions 15 years ago, so 2012. And we took them down to like 900,000 barrels of exports. And instead of doing all of what President Trump suggests, things blowing up and just shutting everything down, there are ways for them to do wartime economizing. Right, so you shut down one field, do some maintenance on it, then you bring it back. You shut down the next one. You can do a rotation. You can set fields on fire, which is by design, which doesn't put any pressure on the pipes below ground.
Wow.
I don't expect to see any explosions. They are hurting economically. They are devastating economic pain in Iran.
And yet, here we are still at war with them. This is,
they can handle the pain.
I'm just saying.
They can handle the pain, and their view is, how long can you handle the pain? And I'll tell you this, we're going towards a cliff on oil and oil products by the end of this month.
Physical shortages.
We have physical shortage already, but it's just in countries we don't care about.
Okay.
So then they will, right, because they're poor.
Yeah.
But then it'll go to middle income countries like Vietnam and Thailand. Then it goes to Japan and Korea. And then it comes here. And here's the thing, you want to fly out of the United States? You can say, we have oil, we have jet fuel.
Right.
Okay, you can't take it with you.
Wow.
When you fly out, you got to be able to refill somewhere else.